IVM.
Hi, everybody. On behalf of the team at IVM Podcast, I have a request for you. We'd really appreciate it if you could go to ivmpodcast.com/survey and fill out our survey over there. It's going to take a few minutes to do, but it gives us some really interesting information that we can take to advertisers and brands about who's listening to the network. If you're comfortable giving us your email address while you're filling out the survey, we'll enter you into a random drawing where we'll be sending out a bunch of IVM swag to some of our listeners. Last year, we sent out coffee mugs, and this year we're hoping to send out much cooler stuff. That's ivmpodcast.com/survey. We really appreciate your help.
Hello and welcome to the Habit Coach podcast. I am Ashdin, doctor, your habit coach. And we're living in this strange world right now, right? Everything is in front of a screen. Your entire world has become in front of a screen. And we're living in this digital age. Well, people have been saying we've been in this digital age for the last decade or two. But now it's almost like the digital world is your life. And which is why I have a fantastic guest with us who is talking about the digital age, becoming a digital nomad. He runs something known as the Digital Nomad Academy. And he puts out these 1-minute videos that are absolutely fantastic. And there are so many little bits that you're going to learn from this podcast. So I'm super excited for you to listen to this. So let's invite onto the Habit Coach podcast, Waqas Hassn. Waqas, welcome to the Habit Coach podcast.
Thank you, Ashdin. So excited to be here, man. I've been, before we start, I'd say that I've been looking at your feed, and just the fact about how much grasp you have on human psychology was something that stood out when I was looking at it. And I'm really glad to see the kind of content and the kind of work you're putting out there. And honored to be here.
Thank you. Waqas, you talk about this whole digital world, right? And digital nomad. What is happening in this world? Like, why do you feel that it's important to be a digital nomad? What does it even mean?
I think that's a great place to start. Let me explain how I see it as well. And I think our listeners will like it as well, and give them the entire context of how the world has evolved, where we are. So this is what, for me personally, I see it as the third age of information in the human evolution. And the way I see it is that, as you know, when the Homo sapiens started coming on to the earth, let's say 70,000-ish years ago, and they were mostly hunter-gatherers, nomads, moving from one place to another with the families of, let's say, 5 to maximum 15 people in one tribe, and they're just moving around. The first age of creation of information, what I call, was the age which is tied with agriculture revolution, about 10 to 12,000 years ago, which was the first time these Homo sapiens, us humans, started settling down in societies, in settlements. So that's where the first settlements, civilization, cities, not really cities, but communities started forming up. And then these communities started becoming bigger, 50 people, 200 people, 500 people. Because for the first time, humans figured out they can grow their own crop, they can have their own animals who they can tame and use for different productive reasons. And once we do go back in archaeology, we see that all these societies were, in the middle of all these societies, there used to be one religious institution, depending on the religion of that tribe. And usually all those religions, which we don't really hear about today, but let's say forefathers or some spirits or any kind of religions. And those used to be the center places. And that center place used to be the institution of information sharing, knowledge about wisdom about how to live this life better, how to live the next life better, so on and so forth. The knowledge center used to be that. And that pretty much continued with how the modern religions, when like all our religions today that are like the 3-4 big religions, if you see, you go back into 1, 2, 3,000 years history of them. All these religions, either they're churches, mosques, temples, synagogues, they have been the center for knowledge. And then there's society around it that just benefits from these knowledge. Books are there, priests are there that used to teach. So this was all the first age of knowledge and information sharing when I see the history of humans, Homo sapiens. Then the second age came when knowledge or information was decoupled from religious institutions and became the responsibility of academic institutions. And this is pretty much when you go to the Renaissance state. So we're talking about 500 years ago, or even if we go a little bit further back, Oxford University is 800 years old or so on, where the first time you see these universities becoming the central for knowledge. And of course, you will see bits and bytes of it in the Aristotle age when it started about 2,500 years ago. But we still see that academic institutions as a formal place where the knowledge is kept and then taught to the community is about within this millennial, with Oxford universities and similar that kind of universities 800 years ago. And that has pretty much continued till today. We are the product of that. When we growing up, we go to the school to gain knowledge, and then out of school there's no knowledge. We go to university to get degree and knowledge, and then out of university there is no knowledge. They just play. But for the first time in human history, we have seen this transition in front of our eyes in the last 5 or so years, which I call the third age of knowledge sharing, is that knowledge was decoupled from academic institutions as well and became peer-to-peer, where each person who was a consumer of knowledge can now be the sharer of knowledge as well. So to give examples, I am a person who, when had to learn, let's say, website development or blog development, I did not go to an academic institution. Instead, I saw YouTube videos where some other person who has created the same blogs would be teaching me. When I had to learn the guitar, I went to the YouTube to learn guitar for someone else. While when I wanted to learn guitar when I was 15 years old, I went to the academic institution, which was like a music academy. And again, same example as academic institution, because knowledge was part of that institution. So today, from learning graphic designing, video editing, to learning programming, to learning how to manage my finances, to learning how personal grooming, to learning fitness, to learning speaking skills, communication skills, confidence, languages, everything I am learning in the age of third knowledge economy, which is either from YouTube, Udemy, Coursera, or people like you who are creating content. And so is everybody else. Now, more people are learning mental models or learning about different aspects of living their life or skills from other content creators than they are from the academic institutions. This is what we have seen in the last 5 years. And this was going at a decent pace until 2020 happened. And this then accelerated beyond everybody's perception. And in countries like India, Pakistan, African countries, where, let's say, it was people or families, parents used to think that, no, this is just this will never replace academic institutions. That now got turned as well, because now even those teachers are using Zoom to share this knowledge, and then teachers are realizing that, oh my God, if I can do this on Zoom and I'm only earning 30,000 rupees a month to teach on Zoom, I should then do it on my Instagram. I should do it on my YouTube, and I should earn 3 lakh a month. And that, what I'm seeing in front of me, how the landscape is changing, that this decade of 2020 onwards, it is the decade where the knowledge, the content creation is going to skyrocket. And the first preference, so for example, a primary mindset will always be, can I learn it online? And if not possible, then should I go to a physical institution? And the reasons to go to physical institutions will change as well. It will be more community and social aspect rather than the knowledge aspect. People will be like, okay, I'm going to learn it online, but I'll still go to have friends in the institution. And that's just my preliminary thinking, because otherwise what I can even see is that maybe even the community feel, which I'm seeing so more and more, is transferring online as well. So I'm not even seeing a reason to go to academic institutions because of these Slack communities, what is that called? All these Facebook groups, private groups now, which is now most are growing faster than the Facebook fan pages. So these kind of communities are Discord. Discord is a community which I was forgetting is something that is giving a community feel. So let's see where it is going. But what one thing can be sure, and especially how I see this landscape, is that knowledge economy, if it started about 5-10 years ago about peer-to-peer knowledge sharing, it's going to be the primary model in this decade. And that is what fascinates me.
Wow. Insane. Tell me, Waqas, is it about knowledge sharing, or is it about entertainment also that's coming out in a sharing form? Are there different aspects to it? Because there's one part which is saying that it's only gyan that we're giving out, right? It's knowledge sharing. But there are so many people and content creators who are doing entertainment stuff as well. Are there buckets like that? Knowledge, entertainment, etc., etc., etc.?
For sure, especially when you see that singers or actors, when these guys are now more popular, or even news anchors are more popular on their YouTube pages than they are on the TV, and especially with singers and musicians. So I think that they realized that before that the idea of giving a song in a Bollywood movie as a playback singer has less appeal to these singers now than to have 3 lakh people on their YouTube following them and listening to their song directly from them. And especially because the middleman is now getting out in a way that even if the song in the Bollywood works, for the next song, that singer needs another music director to hire them. But if the song works on their own YouTube video, they don't need any middleman. They're going to keep going further and further. I think our since our content consuming patterns have evolved so much to this online, and although it was pretty, in my opinion, was pretty sad for our mental health that we had to stay or still staying 6 to 8 months in our closed indoors. The unfortunate part is that every time human, and you being a habit coach, you know this better than every time humans go through a certain behavioral pattern for a long time, the normal changes. So the normal we used to have in 2019 is not the normal anymore. So when people talk about when we'll go back to the normal, the unfortunate fact is we are living in the new normal. There is no back to the normal anymore. This is the normal.
Superb. I love this part because now we need to learn new things for this new normal, right? What are 3 important aspects to you for what people should know now or learn now for this new normal? Like, what are the aspects of their life they need to start tweaking, they need to start changing, maybe rethinking about it, maybe doing new things in this new normal world?
All right. So I'll start with whatever comes first in my mind, and then we'll see what are the other 2 there. And this is more, let's say I'll focus more on the young generation first. So these are, let's say, the kids who still go to school. So if some of our listeners who have kids, or they have cousins who are still young, and then this would work. I've seen around me that a lot of people, kids especially who are school going kids, could be from class 1 to class 12, are, let's say, not using this time as a break from studying, because they're like, once the institutions open again, and because countries have kind of promised that's going to be in January 2021, we'll open the institutions. So these kids are like, okay, until then, it's kind of a holiday for us. So we don't have to, and even if listening to the lectures, we'll keep our Zoom video off and we'll just listen to the lecture. It doesn't really matter. It's not real education. The issue is that the skill of talking in front of camera is now more valuable than the skill of talking in front of 20 people in a classroom. Teachers need to understand that, students need to understand that this is now going to be more valuable. So when we close our video camera, or when teachers also don't open their video camera, or students don't take it seriously, or they're like, we'll go back to normal, the issue is that thinking on the spot while you're talking to camera, and or whatever the body language is in front of the camera, all the skills related to this are now more valuable. I go even to the fact that because I know a lot of people are like almost not taking this as a like break from school. The issue is that this is the real skill that you're developing, that I hope that your school stays off and you start learning this skill, because this is now more real world skill, more jobs worthy skill to be able to do your work online, do your assignments online, than what you're going to learn in school once the school reopens again. So one thing I would completely prefer is that people take it seriously, because this is an important skill.
I love it. I love it, love it, love it. So Waqas, what you said was so interesting, right? Because you're saying that now you have to develop this skill of talking to a camera, right? A skill of looking at so many people sitting in front of you. Earlier on, it was a classroom of 20 people. When I used to do my in-person workshops, there used to be 150 people in the audience. Now, suddenly, I did a workshop the other day for 450 people. right? 450 people that you're talking to. Wow. Right. So earlier on, that whole concept of is there stage fright? Is there not stage fright? How much of that have you seen change? Because I was thinking about this seriously. I was talking to 450 people. I think this is the maximum I've spoken to. And I'm not necessarily feeling as stage fright as I would in person. Is it because I'm sitting in my home with my own coffee mug? What is it? Have you noticed the difference with that?
That's an amazing point, man. That's great. It's almost until you've mentioned it, I didn't even think about it, because it's such a valid point that our definition of stage fright has flipped so much that now having 50 people attending a webinar or an online class, it's like, yeah, these are like, and 50 people, 12 of them a video is on, 38 video is also not on, but these are 50 real people. If you imagine 50 real people in a classroom, there's a lot of nerves, there's a lot of stage fright there. So I think that's a great point, but it's only because you understand this and you are doing this, and that's the great part. What most of our people who are who are not yet adopting this, thinking this is a temporary transition in the normal way of life. I think that's wrong, because it's kind of difficult when you start speaking in front of camera to be able to have a full body language and think on the spot, because it's less interactive in a way as well. Especially from those people who are into teaching profession already, who've been doing physical teaching. I think for them, especially if some of them are listening, it's important to now develop this skill. And here as well, people don't, a lot of times I've seen that because it's not something they take seriously, they don't invest in their outlook or structuring it the way or making it more interactive. So these are all the skills related to this that I see that one of the most important skills of the decade ahead
absolutely
is this video communication.
Life is not going back to what it was. So now learn about this.
Especially economies change. Economies of scale, in a way, it changes that this will be higher value than the other one. And also demand and supply issue comes as well, because there are, let's say, 100,000 teachers in a certain community or certain city, but there are only 1,000 who can do a good interactive online session. So those will be paid much higher by the market economy than those where the supply is too much. So it's a good time to invest in video speaking skill. This is going to be very highly paying as well.
Very, very, very super. Okay, so that was point one. Point two.
Point two is, in my opinion, the idea of personal branding.
Okay.
The idea of personal branding is that until, and my electricity has gone, so let's see for how long this keeps working.
No problem.
The idea of personal branding, in my opinion, is that the age where your worth for the society, for the corporates, for all the matters of market economy used to be previously in terms of based on your CV, your job interviews, your references, people who refer you to a certain thing, is now going less and less, is now less as strong as your personal brand. And the easiest example to understand this is that if somebody approaches me for any position to work for my brands, I do not interview or ask for CV or anything else. I would just ask, can you share some links to your profile or links to the work you have done? And that's I've seen the kind of videos they've made or the kind of content they're making or whatever the work they're doing. That for me is their personal brand. And same thing I've seen as well, that the opportunities that I get to speak and in different countries on, let's say, Industry Revolution 4.0 or on how technology is changing the cities or how people are interacting more and more with technologies. I would never get these kind of things from my CVs or something, but I don't even have to work for them because content is so strong that it has created a personal brand out there that is resulting in these opportunities that come. And for now, if we go a bit back here, for people who don't understand what the personal brand is, that because it ties with the introduction that where I shared that we are in that economy where everybody who is a knowledge consumer is also a knowledge sharer. So irrespective of what stage in life you are, there is a community of people who relates to you, your life situation, your upbringing, your whatever stage in life you're in. There and in every community now, in every classroom, we can see now that there's some people who have strong personal brand and others who are just the normal students. And people who have strong personal brands are those who are also thought considered as thought leaders in that certain aspect. So if I am a math student in a university and I'm creating content on how to solve this maths problem more efficiently, I am a thought leader in my community on maths problem. Similarly, if I'm in a job and I'm talking about how to groom for the job better, how to dress up for the job, a corporate job, or how to give presentations better, everybody else who's in the job sector is considering me as a thought leader in these things. Although what I'm doing is pretty similar, that these are my experiences, this is what I've learned, this is what I've understood, and I'm sharing my content with you, my understanding of these things. So one of the biggest and most reward worthy as well trend that I'm seeing from here onwards is the idea of personal branding, that you have a strong personal brand where you are considered thought leader in whatever field you're doing. And this could be moms in the house making breakfast for their kids and sharing it with other moms on Facebook groups or on YouTube about what nutrition or what diet is working for their kids to stay more healthy, more productive. She is a thought leader in that. She has a personal brand in that. Now that mom has a much higher brand value, let's say, with as compared to the other moms in the same school or the neighborhood. And that's pretty much the idea of personal brand here. That each of us are now going to want to have our personal brand as we go on in the future.
Lovely. What are aspects of a personal brand? Is it about uniqueness? Is it about the content? Is it about the visuals? Like, if you could give some, like touchy-feely things that people can start thinking about how should they start even thinking about creating the personal brand?
I think it's about the perspective because people first think that I am not an expert in something, so I can't develop my personal brand in this. I don't have either qualification why would people listen to me if they can listen to XYZ person on the internet?
Correct.
The difference is the perspective, that your truth, your perspective of looking at something is never going to be same with the other person. Because your upbringing is different, your experiences are different, your mind, your angle to view something is different. So when I coach my students in developing their personal brand, I ask them, what is your truest reality today? Not that I want to be this person and hence I should make content on this. So for example, a lot of people want to be a traveler, so I want to make content, travel vlogging. And I'm like, what is your reality today? Once you will be a traveler for 2 years and you understand traveling is your life, and you make traveling vlog and you become your personal brand. You make your personal brand as a travel vlogger. But what is your reality today? Is it that you are pretty good with JavaScript? Is it that you do riyaz every morning and you're pretty good with singing? Is it that you are very efficient in meal planning or financial management or productivity management, or just dealing with stress and anxiety and meditation and everything to do with the mental health? What is your reality today? Start sharing that perspective, because there are millions of other people who are in the same stage in life as you are, who when look at you feel that this person is relatable. He or she has gone through the same journey and his or her perspective appeals to me, and they benefit from you. And it's not for fame, it's really for out there for brand. Your personal brand is if you're famous, then you're a celebrity, you already have like a strong personal brand. But for my personal brand or other people, the normal people personal brand is not dependent on fame. It's dependent on the value that other people are getting from your perspective, your content. And that I think is the biggest truth here, that whatever is your truest reality, your perspective of seeing things, you should be very confident that millions of people will benefit from that.
I want to clap at this because, you hit such an important point. You said that don't do it for the fame, right? Forget about the fame for the time being. Just show on what your current reality is and how you're adding value to people. Very often it turns into, I started a vlog. Why? Because I have a lot to say. you have a lot to say. It does not mean that it's going to value people, and not doesn't mean that people are going to get value from it or people want to listen to it. Correct? Just because you have a lot to say
Right.
doesn't mean that you should start a blog. And it's so interesting. Always think about, the person who's listening to you, watching you, the audience, more than what you want to just say out. And I think that is something that has worked true for me. When we started the Habit Coach podcast, it was, what do people want to know more than what can I put out? Yeah, because I could talk about anything, but is there anything necessary?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And also because what you've been talking about has been your truest reality as well. This
Yes.
is what you live. This is not like for example, I've seen people try making funny videos when they are funny. Being funny on day-to-day basis is not their truest reality, but because funny videos work on the internet, that is where the issue comes up.
Yeah.
Like for me, it's like whatever is your truest reality, not every person in the world it gets attracted to a funny video. There are a lot of people who gets attracted to a thoughtful, serious, calm videos as well. And if that's your reality, appeal to that audience. Forget about the funny audience that who wants only
So true.
consume funny content. So yeah, that a personal brand has to be the truest reality. This is almost like in the digital age, our virtual self. Now we are living multiple lives. One life is a physical life. So I'm eating, I am sitting in a certain chair, certain sofa. That's my physical life, talking to certain friends at a cafe. But at the same time, everybody in this digital age has a virtual avatar as well. And that avatar is your personal brand. And it's easiest to have that avatar as someone who is the extrapolation of your truest reality, truest self, because you never run out of perspective or content or ideas, than making it something which you're not truly are, and then it's going to be a very difficult image to hold.
Yeah. It's so true. When people ask me, Ashdin, you've written 375 podcasts. You do every single habit? I was like, yeah, every single one of them I do, because otherwise I won't be able to talk about them with so much confidence, right?
Yeah.
And it's such a sad place when you live your life from a lie. So don't start the process of living yourself by a lie, because it'll always catch up with you. You'll have to add more lies to it. And don't try and be someone you're not. I think that's the most important aspect of this whole branding, personal branding that I've taken out from this as well.
Totally. And also when you share your habits podcast, the idea, the human psychological aspect that when you're making that only comes if you've done that, because otherwise you won't understand the human, like how other humans actually feel when doing this habit, because you have done it, how you felt doing it. That's the only time the content becomes a true reality. If it's because otherwise you can pretty much see the layer where some people have learned it in the book and recycled it, or they have learned it from somewhere, adopted it, understood their human psychological patterns while doing that thing, and then made content on it. That's the difference.
Lovely. But Waqas, it's so hard not to look at that number, no? Number of likes, number of subscribers, number of this, number of that. How do you tell people to either avoid it? Should you look at it? Should you not look at it? Is there some...
It was a pretty good chase to have that number when, let's say, when Instagram was 2017, 2018. It was really a good chase to do. Similarly, it was a good chase to do for TikTok until about last year and early this year to hit the big number, because it had monetary benefits as well, in a way that you get a lot of opportunities when the number is big. The reality of today's world is, especially post COVID, post 2020, is that because I've been on Instagram for 3 years, I've seen my organic reach decrease from as much as 30 to 40% to 8 to 10%. And this is just going down. So now growing the number has become, for any new content creator, for anyone, is the number game is now, it's not a good chase anymore. And brands understand that as well, because they know someone with a 40,000 will have similar number of views per video as someone with 10,000 followers or 4,000 followers. So now the chase becomes up, and it happens with every market economy game, and there's lots and lots of supply, which has happened in this content creation game. The talented ones will come out of it, and for others who are just trying to, let's say, recycle the content, or trying to have emotional forwarded content or funny forwarded content that they posting their profiles just to get the numbers high, those ones will not be able to make it. So I now when I coach my students, I'm like, hey, if once you have 1,000 people who see you as thought leaders in a certain field, you're already ready to what I teach them, to work from anywhere and don't have to go for a full-time job, because that itself is now solid enough number to basically make a proper career in this field, even if you don't want to have it on the side. And that really works. Now the conversion rate is, if 1,000 people see you as a thought leader in a certain field, and if you have, let's say, something which is a premium product or a premium service or one-on-one coaching or anything that you want to do, you'll see 50 to 100 people out of those 1,000 will end up taking that service from you, and that way the money comes as well. Definitely. So that idea that if I have a lot of huge number, I'll get a lot of brand endorsements. The economics are not working. If people are listening here, that for a 30,000 follower account of mine, I do not get enough returns by brand endorsements. They will be like $100 for 3 posts. $100, if you have 30,000, you can just open your own story and you can say that I am taking in 3 students this month for $500 each on certain coaching, and you can get those 3 students from your own followers. So the economies just don't work anymore. Correct. So don't go for the number, go for being a thought leader, add value in people's life, and even 500, 1,000 followers you have, and that's where the game starts already.
Dude, I need to come to you for coaching, man. Okay, we're going to talk about this afterwards.
I'd love to. Yeah, we should definitely.
Okay, because I don't know any of this. So I'm just putting content out, hoping for the best. So you have to guide me on this.
Perfect.
Lovely. So last point, step 3. What is the third aspect of, this new age that people should embrace?
Oh, now, since you've rephrased the question like this, the thought came. So I always say that the magic is always in the questions. You can see whatever kind of question you pose out, you can evoke different neural patterns to fire in the person's mind. And this was a great way of embracing. The word embrace was pretty good. And the answer that came in my head was the fear, not to embrace the fear that technology is here to disrupt our lives, make our lives worse. AI is there to basically take over the world, a matrix kind of scenario. And they're always listening. There's always this, they're always listening to our conversation and storing it. So, and my privacy is under threat, because what is happening is a lot of people have created this own mental model for themselves where they are staying away from technology with that fear that they are listening, they're controlling me. And while they are still keeping their distance away, the world beneath has already changed, or is changing so rapidly that that they'll eventually have to play the catching game. So what I would say to people is that if we see human evolution, every time there is an advancement in human evolution, from even the first stage of industrial evolution, let's say the steam engines or the cars, or then in the second, the idea of electricity and motorization, or the idea of personal computers, typewriters going away. Every time there was an evolution in human history, most people for about a relatively long period of time were against it until it hit the critical mass, and everybody had to play the catching game. And by that time, the rewards, or what you can do or how much you can progress in this, was already too late.
Correct.
So when I see today's world, and I see the idea that virtual reality gadgets, where people are wearing virtual reality gadgets and talking to each other while they are in different geographies completely, or they're playing table tennis with each other while they're in different geography. And people are like, this is just so stupid. I love my real world. The fact is that if you see your screen time today, it's going to be somewhere between 4 hours to 8 hours a day on average, depending on what age you are and what life you live. Is you are already living in the virtual world. It's just that virtual reality gadgets is making that 2D world of yours that you're already living into 3D. And you have, and hence when that kind of comes, it's not going to, it's already there. Netflix is now on virtual reality. What else we can see? So it's not something that is there to work against you and things will change. It is something that is the natural order of human progression. So any technology you see from, and especially this is very true when I started doing my research on smart cities in 2014, I used to go around focus groups and I used to ask them about autonomous vehicles, cars that drive themselves. And they'd be like, I'll never use it. I trust the driver and all this. Today, just 6 years later, that number is completely flipped. People are seeing autonomous vehicles as convenience when we see the data around it. And this is what's going to happen with every technology. So I always tell people to be ruthlessly optimistic when it comes to technology. Fine, there will be hacks, there will be crime, there will be thefts. And so have they been in every aspect of human society.
Yeah.
Just the nature of thefts change. Your house was never safe even in the past as well. Your money in the bank was never safe even in the past as well. So thefts, crime will always be there. It will always be there in the future. But in terms of the scalability in rewards you can get from adoption of technology is insane if you're the early player. And by early player, I mean just like instead of waiting for everybody in your community to adopt it, just give it a shot first. Experiment with it. Yeah.
Lovely. I'm completely on board with this because you have to embrace technology. Very soon, all your embarrassing stuff is going to be out there. Now you just make peace with the fact that lots of embarrassing pictures of you and stuff is going to be out there. Hone wala hai. Make peace with it. Can't do anything about it. Chalo, let's go on. Right? Life will move on. And don't get so caught up on it. So I love what you said because the first aspect was all about getting comfortable in front of the camera. So critical. The second aspect was all about figuring out that you have now not just a physical body, but a virtual body. And that digital branding is so important. That virtual branding is so important for you to have. Start putting your reality out there, your opinions out there, but as long as it is valuable to the other person coming in. And finally, don't fear this new world that you're moving into because it's here and it's definitely going to start evolving. So don't fight it. Go with the flow. Superb.
Very true.
I love what you said because this is exactly what I wanted people to take out from this. We need to now just throw ourselves into this new future and embrace it. Lovely. Waqas, how can people get in touch with you? How can people, like I was saying, get your coaching? What are the ways in which people can reach out to you?
The best is Instagram.
Okay.
It is at Waqas Hassn. I still read every DM, and even people that I DM who are much higher than me in terms of their followers, they also read every DM. The only DMs that don't work are the DMs which are hi, hello, how are you kind of DMs. Any solid DM works, and everybody reads their DM. I mean, the reason that has become the primary mode of communication. For any long form communication, it's waqas@digitalnomadacademy.co, which is the email address. And that would also work. So waqas@digitalnomadacademy.co or Instagram @Waqas Hassn.
Lovely. Super. Waqas, thank you so much for joining us on the Habit Coach podcast. I'm so excited for our next episode.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
See you next time.
Awesome.
If you like this podcast, don't forget to check out other interesting podcasts on the IVM network. You can listen to us on the IVM Podcast app or ivmpodcast.com. You can also follow us on social media. We are at IVM Podcasts on Twitter and Instagram. If you want to reach out to me, I am Ashdin Doc on Twitter and Instagram. You can find lots more information on my website, awesome180.com. or check out different content on my YouTube channel called AWESOME180. That's Awesome 180.
I hope you enjoyed that show. If you aren't following us on social media, please do. We're IVM Podcasts on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. I wanted to kind of just give a quick reminder to everybody. As I mentioned up top, we are doing our annual listener survey right now. If you could please go and take a couple of minutes out of your day and fill it out, we would really appreciate it. It's ivmpodcast.com/survey. If you're comfortable giving us your email address, we'll enter you into a random drawing, and we're going to be sending out swag to a bunch of randomly selected listeners. So do definitely get on board that train. let me tell you a little bit about what we did on the network this week. We launched a new show called Zindagi Diaries with Ragini Kumar. Many of you might have seen Ragini on television during the IPL. She's a presenter, but she's showing a different side of herself over here with a poetry podcast. Give it a shot, give it a listen. Let me know what you all think. Vishal Gondal is back this week after a while. He's been on an extended break, but he has Rahul Narvekar for the first episode. Really interesting conversation. Do check it out. Raji Samant joins Gauri Devidayal on This Round Is On Me to talk about the wine business and what's going on there. We had a number of conversations about the Farmers Bill and the surrounding agitation this week on the network as well. Maruk Inayat had a great episode on the note. Puliabazi did a deep dive into the issues around this. And on Siders, we have our typical, fun conversation about this stuff with a little bit of a seriousness, a little bit of fun. Do check that out on Cock and Bull on Thursday last week. Akash Mehta joined us for that episode. And with that, I hope to see you again next week.
जिंदगी डायरीज के पन्नों में कुछ पुरानी यादें, समुंदर किनारे झूमते दरख्त, जवान दिल की धड़कनें और अनजान मुलाकातें हैं। तो आइए खोलिए मेरे साथ जिंदगी डायरी के पन्ने और साथ ही खुलकर जीते हैं जिंदगी। आप सुन सकते हैं जिंदगी डायरीज IVM पॉडकास्ट ऐप या वेबसाइट पर, या जहां कहीं से भी आप अपने पॉडकास्ट सुनते हो।